For every beloved Stranger Things character, there is also one hated by everyone, starting with one of the most loved ones. We have Eleven. She is the beating heart of Stranger Things. Introduced in Season 1 as a mysterious, silent girl with a shaved head and haunting eyes, Eleven immediately captured the audience's attention. As the show unfolded, so did her character, a traumatized child raised in a lab, turned into a weapon by adults, now seeking love, friendship, and a place to belong. What makes Eleven so beloved by fans is her balance of raw power and deep vulnerability. Her telekinetic abilities are some of the most impressive moments in the show, flipping vans, crushing monsters, and tearing through dimensions. But it's not just her powers that resonate. Fans connected with her emotional journey, learning to speak, making friends, experiencing joy and loss, and discovering what it means to be human. Her relationships are a huge part of her appeal. Her bond with Mike is innocent and sincere, giving the series its emotional core. Her father-daughter relationship with Hopper adds even more depth, showing a gruff man slowly softened by the love and responsibility. These connections make Eleven more than a superhero. They completely make her real and relatable to viewers. As the seasons progress, Eleven evolves, from the scared lab experiment in a hospital gown to a confident young woman willing to risk everything for her friends. Her growth is one of the most satisfying arcs in the show. She's brave, selfless, and deeply loyal, often putting others before herself even when it breaks her. Where one character is loved by fans, another is completely hated, and for this case we have the character Angela. Angela, who came on board in Stranger Things Season 4, may have had limited screen time, but her impact was immediate and overwhelmingly negative. Portrayed as the new Queen Bee of Lenora Hills High School, Angela embodies the worst kind of high school bully: manipulative, cruel, and completely unapologetic. While previous antagonists in the show have been monsters or supernatural threats, Angela stands out as a painfully real villain, someone who uses psychological and social tactics to humiliate others. Her torment of Eleven is one of the most uncomfortable and heartbreaking parts of Season 4. Angela mocks Elle's appearance, ridicules her for not having parents, and turns the entire class against her. The most notorious scene at the roller rink sent shockwaves through the fandom. With a fake act of kindness, Angela lures Elle into a public setup, where she is humiliated in front of a crowd, filmed, and then laughed at while completely defenseless. It's a moment that left fans furious and triggered a massive backlash online, with many calling it one of the most disturbing non-supernatural scenes in the show. What makes Angela so hated isn't just her cruelty, it's how real it feels. Unlike the monsters from the Upside Down, Angela represents the everyday evil of bullying, exclusion, and emotional abuse. Her actions hit close to home for many viewers who have experienced or witnessed similar behavior in real life. While her role is minor in the overall plot, Angela's presence serves a crucial narrative purpose. She amplifies Eleven's feelings of isolation and powerlessness, reminding us that even without her psychic abilities, Elle faces real-world challenges that are just as painful. But where there is darkness, there is always a light beam ready to shine out from the corner, in the form of our next character. Steve Harrington has one of the most remarkable character transformations in Stranger Things, evolving from a typical 1980s high school heartthrob into a fan-favorite hero. When we first meet Steve in Season 1, he's arrogant, self-absorbed, and more concerned with popularity than anything meaningful. But what initially seemed like a shallow character quickly turned into one of the show's most complex and beloved figures. His redemption arc began when he chose to stand by Nancy and Jonathan during their fight against the Demogorgon, an early hint that there was more to Steve than just perfect hair and charm. But it was in Season 2 where his character truly blossomed. Tasked with protecting Dustin and the younger kids, Steve unexpectedly embraced his role as the group's unofficial babysitter. His baseball bat-wielding heroism, paired with a surprising amount of patience and heart, made him instantly endearing. The bond between Steve and Dustin became one of the most celebrated dynamics in the series. Their brotherly relationship was filled with hilarious banter, life advice, and genuine care. Fans loved watching Steve, once a vain high school senior, giving hair tips to Dustin or risking his life to protect the group without hesitation. His bravery, loyalty, and steady emotional growth turned him into the mom of the group, a running joke and badge of honor among fans. Joe Keery's charismatic performance sealed Steve's status as one of the show's greatest character turnarounds. No longer just a pretty face, Steve became a symbol of real growth. But for every character who earns love through redemption, there's another who earns hate through manipulation. From Hawkins High to Lenora Hills, the series is no stranger to characters that get under your skin, and for many fans, this next character is exactly that. Enter Jason Carver, who showed up in Season 4 and quickly rose to the top of fans' most hated character lists. At first glance, he seems like a typical all-American high school golden boy, the charming basketball captain with a bright future. But as the season progresses, Jason becomes the embodiment of mob mentality, paranoia, and blind righteousness. Following the mysterious death of his girlfriend, Chrissy, Jason spirals into a dangerous obsession with vengeance. Rather than seeking the truth, he becomes fixated on blaming Eddie Munson and the Hellfire Club, convinced they are part of a satanic cult. His inability or unwillingness to understand the actual supernatural events unfolding in Hawkins turns him into a major antagonist. Fueled by fear and ignorance, he riles up the town, spreads hysteria, and turns ordinary people into a violent mob. Jason's actions have real consequences. He nearly ruins the group's plan to defeat Vecna, violently confronts Lucas, and shows no remorse for endangering others. What makes him particularly despised is his arrogance and self-righteousness. He genuinely believes he's the hero, even as his actions become more reckless and destructive. Unlike villains with tragic backstories or misunderstood motives, Jason represents the everyday threat of willful ignorance and misguided moral crusades. His downfall, while brutal, felt justified to many viewers, symbolizing the collapse of fear-driven fanaticism in the face of reality. Jason wasn't a monster from the Upside Down, but he was just as dangerous. Anyways, for every character like Jason who sparked frustration and outrage, the series balances the scale with someone who unexpectedly steals our hearts. For the next most loved character, we have Dustin Henderson, who is the heart and soul of Stranger Things' younger crew. From the very beginning, his infectious energy and lovely curiosity made him an instant fan favorite. Played brilliantly by Gaten Matarazzo, Dustin brings a perfect mix of humor, intelligence, and emotional depth to the series. Dustin stands out for his unwavering loyalty to his friends, whether he's building a radio tower out of junkyard scraps or crawling through tunnels full of demodogs. Dustin throws himself into every adventure with courage and enthusiasm. He's the group's voice of reason, comic relief, and often the one who connects the dots when nobody else can. One of the most celebrated aspects of Dustin's character is his friendship with Steve Harrington. What started as an unlikely pairing in Season 2 blossomed into one of the most beloved dynamics in the show. Dustin brings out the best in Steve, and Steve provides Dustin with the kind of big brother support and encouragement that's both funny and heartfelt. Their bond gave the series some of its most entertaining and touching moments. If you also love Dustin, hit the subscribe button. But while Dustin lifts spirits and brings people together, not all characters share his charm. In fact, some bring nothing but manipulation and cruelty. Here comes Doctor. Martin Brenner, a dark and twisted character we all know as Papa. He stands as one of the most cold and unsettling figures in the Stranger Things universe. As the head of Hawkins' lab, Brenner is directly responsible for some of the show's darkest experiments, most notably the unethical testing on children with psychic abilities, including 11. Portrayed with icy calmness by Matthew Modine, Brenner's outward charm masks a deeply manipulative and dangerous man. Brenner's character is defined by control. He raises 11 in isolation, treating her not as a child, but as a tool to reach into the unknown. He withholds affection to gain obedience, and justifies his cruelty under the guise of scientific advancement and protection. Even when 11 escapes and begins to discover the outside world, the shadow of Brenner looms large. His influence on her life is traumatic and lasting. In later seasons, the show attempts to add some depth to his character, showing that he may have believed in his own twisted way that he was protecting 11. But for many fans, those moments of softness only deepen the horror because they reveal how deeply he believed in the righteousness of his actions. Brenner represents a very human evil, a man willing to sacrifice others, especially children, for power and discovery. Okay, that's enough for now. About sadistic scientists and evil villains, let's head over to the good side and take a look at the next on the fan favorite checklist. Now let's talk about Joyce Byers, the ultimate mom in Stranger Things. From the second her son Will goes missing in Season 1, Joyce turns into a total powerhouse. She's scared, sure, but she's also locked in and ready to do whatever it takes to get her boy back. At first, people think she's just being paranoid or losing it, but Joyce doesn't care. She knows something weird is going on, and she's not about to let anyone tell her otherwise. You could tell early on she had a stronger sense of what was happening than most people. Maybe it was because she was a worried mom, but still, not many would have gone as far as she did. Remember when she used those flickering Christmas lights to talk to Will? That moment was wild and emotional, and it totally made fans fall in love with her character. You see, what makes Joyce's character so good is her raw vulnerability doubled with an unstoppable drive for answers. She can often seem frantic, sometimes even bordering on the edge of hysteria, but that's exactly why she never gives up. Her love for her children, first for Will and later her protective instincts toward 11, defines much of her character. This unwavering support, even when it borders on obsession, is exactly what makes her both believable and beloved by viewers. Throughout the series, Joyce proves time and again that she's more than just a grieving or worried mother. Even in a deadly situation like in Season 4 where Hopper got captured and imprisoned, the chips fell down to Joyce creating and executing an elaborate rescue plan that led to the escape of Hopper from the Demogorgon-filled enclosure. Her partnership with Hopper evolves from tense and combative to deeply emotional, adding another layer to her already rich character arc. But while Joyce earns admiration for all the right reasons, not all characters use their influence for good. Next among the hated characters we have Billy Hargrove, played amazingly by Dacre Montgomery. Billy is easily one of the most hot-headed and controversial characters in Stranger Things. His character was first introduced in Season 2 as Max's aggressive older stepbrother. Billy quickly became one of the show's most hated figures due to his violent temper, abusive aggressive behavior, and deeply unsettling presence. From the start, his hostility toward others, especially Lucas, Steve, and even Max, was difficult to watch, and generated immediate backlash from fans. Billy isn't just a school bully, he's actually dangerous. His aggression is explosive, unpredictable, and often racially charged, particularly in his confrontations with Lucas. At home, he is cruel and controlling, and treating Max more like an enemy than a sibling. His presence adds a layer of real-world violence to the show, distinct from the supernatural threats, and it's this all-too-human brand of abuse that makes his character so deeply unsettling. However, Stranger Things complicates Billy's role in Season 3. When he becomes possessed by the Mind Flayer, his cruelty escalates under the influence of a much darker force. But as the season progresses, the show begins to peel back layers of his past. We learn about the physical abuse he suffered from his father, and the pain of losing his mother, giving viewers a glimpse into how Billy became who he is. This backstory doesn't excuse his actions, but it adds a kind of tragic context to it. Billy's final moments offer a surprising redemption. In a rare act of courage, he breaks free from the Mind Flayer's control and sacrifices himself to save Eleven. For some fans, this act softened their view of him. For others, it was too little too late. While fans are on the fence about Billy's character, everyone agrees that this next person is way up on the fan favorite list. Jim Hopper is one of Stranger Things' most enduring and beloved characters. Introduced as the gruff, emotionally closed-off police chief of Hawkins, Hopper's arc is one of transformation from a man weighed down by personal loss and alcoholism to a fierce protector, father figure, and unlikely hero. At first glance, Hopper appears to be the classic small-town cop who's seen too much and cares too little, but when Will Byers goes missing in Season 1, we begin to see a different side of him: sharp instinct, relentless determination, and an inner sense of justice that won't let him stop until the truth is uncovered. His investigation into Will's disappearance leads him deep into the heart of Hawkins' lab and eventually the Upside Down. Hopper's most defining trait is his protective nature. After discovering Eleven, he takes her in and eventually becomes the father figure she never had. Their bond becomes one of the emotional backbones of the series. Hopper's tough love, awkward parenting, and genuine concern for Elle made their relationship deeply moving and, at times, heartbreaking. In later seasons, we see Hopper open up more, revealing his grief over losing his daughter and his struggles with vulnerability. Despite his temper and flaws, he's brave, selfless, and always willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good. Whether it's facing off against Russian operatives, standing between his friends and certain death, or surviving a Soviet prison, Hopper's resilience and courage are unmatched. As good as his deeds may sound, those still getting all the hate from fans are not in short supply. This next character gets dragged by fans a lot, but some people still do not really get why. You see, Mike Wheeler is one of the original core characters in Stranger Things, and he plays a central role throughout the series. As the leader of the group of boys alongside Dustin, Lucas, and Will, Mike is introduced in Season 1 as a compassionate, intelligent, and fiercely loyal friend. Early in the series, he stands out as the group's emotional anchor, especially when it comes to Eleven. His willingness to protect her at all costs, even before fully understanding who or what she is, immediately endeared him to fans. Mike's early character is deeply rooted in empathy, and when Will goes missing, Mike refuses to believe the worst, holding on to hope even when others have given up. His kindness toward Eleven, giving her a safe place to stay, naming her Elle, and forming a deep bond with her helped define the heart of Season 1. He's not just a friend, he becomes her connection to a world beyond trauma and experimentation. This emotional depth, especially for a young character, earned him a great deal of affection from viewers. While at first, as the seasons progress, Mike's role shifts slightly. In Season 2, his love for Eleven becomes more apparent, and his anger over losing her adds tension to his dynamic with the group. His loyalty remains a strong trait, but his tunnel vision, when it comes to Eleven, starts to create friction, particularly with Will, who begins to feel neglected and replaced. This subtle shift in Mike's behavior is intentional, reflecting the way adolescence can strain even the strongest childhood friendships. By Season 3, Mike becomes more focused on his relationship with Eleven, often to the frustration of other characters and some fans. His arrogance increases slightly, and his dismissiveness toward Hopper and others leads to confrontations. While his intentions are generally good, his delivery often lacks tact, making him seem more self-absorbed than before. This version of Mike received mixed reactions from audiences. Some saw it as realistic teenage behavior, while others viewed it as a departure from the kind-hearted leader he once was. In Season 4, Mike's flaws become more pronounced. During his trip to California to visit Eleven, he struggles to understand her emotional needs and fails to recognize the extent of her suffering. His repeated inability to say "I love you" to Eleven becomes kind of a symbolic source of conflict throughout the series, showing a clear disconnect between his words and actions. At times, he appears emotionally immature, especially compared to other characters like Will. Mike's lack of emotions is something a lot of fans seem to have issues with quite a lot in the Stranger Things fandom joining the league of those who outrightly hate his character. Still, while Mike walks the line between love and frustration for many fans, he still exists as one of the central characters to the show. If you thought the most hated characters on this list were bad, check out our other video that goes over the most evil characters in Stranger Things.